What you'll need: 3 yards of Spoonflower fabric. We're using lightweight cotton twill. Pattern, Burda style 6966. Pattern notions, a 9-inch zipper, waistband interfacing, and a button. Ruler, pencil, pattern weights, rotary blade and cutting mat, tailor's ham, sewing machine. Start by laying out your fabric, folded with selvage edge together, and pinning or weighing down the pattern pieces to your fabric. Cut out the pattern pieces. Mark your notches to help match the front and back leg pieces and the waistband. We're going to make a tailor's tack with contrast thread color to mark the ends of the darts. I like to do everything in batches, so I'm going to pin all the darts at once, then sew them all, and finally press them. Start by matching the notches on top, smoothing the fabric down to the point with the tailor's tack, and pinning in place. I've marked the front pieces so I can tell the difference since they all look similar. I'm going to eyeball the sewing of the leg darts, but if you're not confident, you could draw the line in. Then sew your leg darts. Press your dart seams so they'll lay flat on your body. I'm using a press cloth and a tailor's ham, which helps form the fabric to the shape of a body, since bodies aren't flat. Now, we're going to pin the front and back leg pieces, right sides facing, matching our notches. On the inner seams near the upper thigh, the fabric won't match up exactly. The front pieces need to be eased slightly to match the back inner thigh from the notches to the crotch. This can be done by ease stitching the longer piece or by slightly stretching the shorter section to match the longer section while you sew. You'll want to stitch from the same direction for both seams, inside and outside. Usually it's done from top to bottom, in our case from the waistband edge to the bottom of the pants, to keep the grain from twisting. Now we're going to sew the side seams of each pant leg. Press your seams flat. We're going to use the tailor's ham again around the hip area. At this point, if you want to finish your seams, go ahead and do that. You could serge, use pinking shears, or a zigzag stitch. Turn one of the legs right side out and leave the other inside out. Now, put the right side out leg inside of the inside out leg and match up the crotch curves and notches. Next, pin around the crotch. There's a notch on the back curve of the crotch. We're going to start stitching at the front of the crotch curve, stop at this notch, and backstitch. Then we'll baste the rest of the way up the back of the crotch curve. I've marked the notch on the back curve with 2 pins in an X shape to remind me to stop here. Pull the pant leg back out of the other leg. Now we have an inside-out pair of pants. If you're finishing your seams, now is when you'd finish the crotch seams. We need to baste a zipper onto the fabric. I'm going to hand baste my zipper because that's easier for me, but machine basting works just as well. Now switch to a zipper foot and sew the zipper on. Rip out your basting stitches and you'll have a functional zipper. Now we're going to do the waistband. I've cut the interfacing slightly smaller than the fabric to keep the seam allowances from getting too bulky. Match up the raw edges of the waistband and pants, matching your notches, and pin the waistband piece to the pants. Sew everything together and press your seams with the seam allowance going towards the waistband. Press down a 5/8 inch seam allowance along the top edge of the waistband. Then we'll fold the waistband over again at that midpoint, matching up the folded edge with the stitching from when we first attached the waistband. This next part is a little tricky. We're going to match the right sides of the waistband together, stitch the seams with a 5/8 inch seam allowance, trim those seams, angle the corners, and flip right side out. Now we have a nice waistband overlap for our button and a finished edge. Next, we're going to top stitch around the entire waistband. Switch to a buttonhole attachment and sew a buttonhole in the pants. Open the buttonhole with a seam ripper or a buttonhole punch. Be sure not to cut into your stitching. Now we're going to sew on our button. Use the buttonhole you just created to mark where the button should be sewn. Place a toothpick or a tapestry needle behind the button to create space for a thread shank. If the button is sewn flush against the fabric, you won't be able to fit the waistband tab behind it. Based on the pattern instructions, we're going to turn up a 5/8 inch hem and then turn under the raw edge. Then we'll stitch around the entire edge. And you're done.